So welcome back. We are trying to install a new mod, and this will be a sort of small example tutorial of suggested procedure or steps to do when you want to add to your loading list a new mod. If I find it actually, I don't remember the name. Let's see. Oh, plenty of new mods added recently. It's a quest mod by Billy Fight. Yeah, I could look for the authors. Oh, it's good, so we can see how to search things in Nexus mod, because it's not so intuitive. You have to refine search instead of having a way to type directly. But maybe for author it is easier, because you can go here and check user instead, and we oh, here it is, Billy Fighter, I think is the author. So oh, here it is, last one. I already downloaded it, but I will redo this. Oh, let me do one thing first. Maybe I could add the chat. Okay, so I can see, hopefully. If someone is asking something. But this is the mod I'm interested in, so I will just download it. And okay, so thing is, you want to add a new mod. You are interested in because you sure read it, it's interesting, you want to play it, but as usual you have to add it to your well thought loading list. So you'd like to check the mod, see if it has some problems before adding it, see if it may have conflicts, fix things before adding it to your loading list. So this is what I will try to do, and I will try to also explain what I'm doing and why. So sort of small tutorial about these steps while doing it. So first thing, we need to download the mod. I know lots of people likes to use mod managers to install the mods and so on, but we want to do something else. We want to check and fix things before installing the mod. So we will just download it with the manual download. So okay, we need these things. We have already them installed. If not, you have also to go and look for the OAAB data and install it. But I think most people nowadays should have it already installed. Anyway, I have this downloaded here. I'm using this to manage my files, because I think that everybody should manage files with an orthodox file manager. It's much easier than using the standard window folder manager, because you can have two different folders open and copy, compare, move things from one to the other. Is pretty easier this way. So I downloaded this mod here, And here it is. Silent Island is an archive like every mod. So we need to unpack it to be able to see the content. For instance, from this double commander you can just double click and go inside, because it is compatible with this archive format. But I think all in all it's always better to just decompress the archive and have a folder where you can work. It's much easier this way. So I will just do this. Usually you can right click and you will, if you have any mod compression tool installed, like 7-zip, like WinRAR, like PZip, anyway, they are all able to decompose this archive to a folder for you. So we will do just this extract with 7-zip. You should have lots of options for this, and it should make a folder with the same name like this one. So here is the content of the mod package, which is obviously not so obviously, but if the mod is well done, it should be something assuming that the folders are to be placed in the data files Morrowind folder. So there will be probably an ESP mod, which is the main thing you see, from instance in Mesh when you want to add the mod to your loading list, and this is the main file called Silent Island. And then you have the resources that goes to different folders in the same place, and then you can just copy the whole modern folders to your data files Morrowind folder if you want to install it manually. But you could also use your mesh and give this folder like the source of the mod files, or even the archive if you want. But first we want to see if there are problems in here, and we want to fix them. So basically there are two kind of things we want to check. This is the mod like we intend usually, like we added from Mesh, which is adding the code, the rules by which the mod works. And these are the folder where the resources the mod uses are. Resources are, for instance, sounds and textures and meshes, things that are not the mod logic, but the things that are loaded to display things on your Morrowind world. So there are different tools we can use to check and fix and optimize and generally make better, if possible, any mod. Depending on the how old the mod is and how expert about making mods the author is, there may be or not problems or things that need checking. But it's a good rule to always take a look at the mod you are installing, unless you are 100% sure that the modder is so knowledgeable that there's nothing to change. Okay, so let's start talking about this folder structure and the first impression. First impression is very good because we have some standard name folders. We have an extra folder here, which is nothing you really use when you play with standard Morrowind.exe, but you understand immediately that this is a special folder for if you are using Open Morrowind, so you can copy these icons folder instead of this one, because there will be probably icons with higher resolution compared to the standard one used from Morrowind, the old Morrowind.exe, and so Open Morrowind could get some advantage from them, and you can replace them. We are not using Open Morrowind, so we don't need this folder. If you don't think you will ever use Open Morrowind, you can delete the folder, but if you think you will use it or try it, then keep the folder. It does no harm, so no problem about this. And this is something that it is not a well-known standard, but since Wrye made Mesh a lot of years ago, the author of Mesh tried to implement this as a standard folder. This is where Mesh by default is looking for readmes from for mods, and it's a good thing that there's a standard folder, because if not, every modder try to put things in different folders and there's a little confusion. So my suggestion is, if you are a mod author, put your readme inside this folder, because it is the standard place where Mesh is trying to look for it first, and it's a good standard to follow. And as you can see, this mod is already using this folder like it should be. So nothing to hopefully change here. We have a nice readme with details. We could read about it before trying to install the mod, or better, before trying to play, because the mod seems to be very well done from this point of view. We have the spoilers here separated from the readme. Personally, I prefer to have a single readme, because this way it is easier to just link to it from Mesh. Maybe you copy the content of this spoiler guide to this and put a lot of space before the spoiler part, so people can understand that, okay, down below there are the spoilers, so you have all this space in between, so you can avoid reading the spoilers by mistake. But I would make a unique readme, because this way it's simpler to have all the information easy to reach from Mesh, which is our standard Morrowind mod manager. So what I will do is just open this with anything, able to read the text, and I will select everything, Ctrl A, or I can use any edit command to select all, and I will press Ctrl C, or I will use edit, copy, close it, and then open this one, go down below, a lot of spaces, so I can be sure that people do not read the spoilers by mistake, and then I will paste the spoiler and then save, so we have a unique readme. So this way it is easier to link the documentation of the mod from Mesh and to find it. Okay, this is not really necessary, it is just my way of arranging mods, because I think in the long run it is convenient to have things organized this way, because when you are looking for information about a mod, you first look, for instance, in the mod information detail like this. You click the mod and you have the mod information field where you have very short information, but If you want more details, usually you have to open the Readme, and it's a very convenient thing from Mesh. You can click here and set a Readme for the mod. So for instance, this mod is children and family. Let's see. I write child here, look for it, and here it is. So we have a very small Readme because this is a special merge, but you got the idea. If you do something like that, then next time you look for information about some mod, you should be able to find it. Let's see a mod a little more complex, like this one. Oh, even missing. I have all my Readmes missing here. Okay, this one is a little more complicated, but you get the idea. You can, from Mesh, see the Readme and read it from there. And this is making a unique Readme is especially useful if you merge several mods together, because you have different Readme for sure in that case, and you want to copy paste the information, so you have a unique Readme for your merged version. Okay, having said that, let's see these other folders. So this is another standard folder for the game to use, and this is where the icons should go. Okay, what are icons? Icons are those small picture you click when you want to drag and drop things from a player or companion's inventory, or buy things from a vendor, and so on. So these are basically textures, small textures, small images that you use from the UI of the game, from the game interface. So what we would check about these icons? Well, we could check if they are in proper format. They should be they could be like a bitmap, or could be Targa images, or DDS format, which is the DirectX best format for the Morrowind game. And so we may want to change them to be DDS format if they are not. There are some authors, especially artist author, that release them in Targa format because they think DDS could degrade the quality of the image. Well, this is not true, because there are formats that can use DDS without degrading the quality of the image at all. So they could be saved this way. But my opinion is, in any case, these icons are so tiny. They are made by 32 pixels size images, and so they are so small that there's really no difference between using a good compressed DDS format and a format with no compression, like the Targa or the special DDS format. So in short, what I suggest you do is run this tool, which is called Textures Check and Compress, or if we use the tool nickname, the friendly name, it is called Ordenador, which is coming probably from the nation of the author, and you can find it on Nexus, probably on the Skyrim section, because it is compatible with Skyrim too, or you go to my site, look for tools link, you find the link there. But essentially this is probably the best tool you can use to check and optimize your Morrowind textures. And so I really suggest you use this. So the process is basically the same for each folder containing images, with a small difference. The small difference is if you are trying to optimize textures that are only used from the UI, from the interface of the game, it is better not to use the so-called MIP maps. While if you're using textures that are used inside the game world, so when you can change the camera position, the view, at the distance and the angle at which you are looking to the textures, then you have to use the so-called MIP maps. This is the only difference in a short. So basically, the thing we want to use here is to use a profile. There are 3 profiles in the tool, but I suggest you use the maximum one because 99% it is the best one. And we choose for which game we want to use it for Morrowind. And then we have defaults here that are good by standard. The one thing is, these are standard settings that are good for standard textures used inside the Morrowind world, inside the game. In this case, we are using a folder where we know we are using icons, which are UI only images, so we don't need to change the distance or the angle at which we are looking to those pictures, to those images. They are always in the same position. They are in the game interface, in the player inventory, so don't need MIP maps. What are MIP maps? MIP maps are smaller and smaller version of the same textures. Why they are useful? Because this way, when you are inside your game window and looking at things at different angle, at different distance, your computer can use smaller detailed images for distant things, sparing memories, gaining more speed displaying these images. So what happens if those small images are not there in the texture? Your graphic card is calculating them on the fly every time you need to display them. So this is super fast, obviously, but when you have a lot of them, what may happen is that when you look around moving the camera fast, you can see this thing generating a sort of shimmering image. You can notice this thing. So it is recommended to always generate this MIP mask directly in the image. And you can do this automatically from this tool, for instance. So if they are not there, we want to make them automatically. This is for standard textures that you use in the game world, but in our case we are doing this for the icons folder where we know that we don't need those MIP masks. So what we do is remove MIP maps if they are there. We don't need them, and obviously we must choose the correct folder. So we got open the folder where we have put the mod, which is Silent Island. We can look for it. Here it is. We go to the icons folder and basically choose this one. So we are telling the program to look for textures, things inside the icons folder, and as this is a special folder for things used only in the game interface, we want to remove the MIP maps from them because they are not needed. So we will remove them, make simpler and smaller files. Okay, this is not going to get you a gigabyte of free drive space or spared memory, but everything helps, and also this is the correct thing to do because those MIP maps are simply not used, so there's no need to have them on. And while this is completely automatic, why not? So let's do it. If you want, the program automatically is doing a backup. We don't want it because we are sure about it, and so no. And as you can see, we are stripping out the MIP maps from these images. Is it something really needed? No. Is it something causing big problems in game? No, because they are simply not used. But again, this means that we can spare some little bytes, and in this case there are not many icons, but imagine some mod adding a lot of clothes, for instance. They could be several thousands, and so maybe more worth. But the important thing is about the concept. So you understand how the folders, the things in different folders are meant to be used. I think that's something pretty useful. Okay, so this is the one, and we did remove the MIP, and also this mod was already okay from this point of view, but this program is great because if the icons could have been in bitmap format, in some less good format, the tool would have automatically changed them to DDS. So pretty good. And also while doing this, if one of these images would be with some bugs, not standard format, not recognized format, this tool could have could give us advice about this. And oftentimes it happens that there's a bad format for one of these textures, and this tool is able to give advice so you can fix the thing before having problem with it in game, not displaying or displaying like a white textures and so on. Okay, so icons done. Now we want to do the textures. So the textures are the classic things about something you really see in game from different angles, point of view, different distances. So for this we want the MIP maps. So we go back to the standard settings, make if not MIP maps. So if there are no MIP maps, we make it. We choose the folder, which is textures, and then start the program. No backup, and probably we have nothing to do because they are already perfect. This can also give you a a hint about how knowledgeable the mod maker is, because finding that all the textures have proper mipmaps, proper format, and so on is a good sign about the modder knowing, the mod maker knowing what he's doing. Okay, so we checked these two folders. We could do the same with the open Morrowind icons, but we are not using them, so not needed. But in short, you could do more or less the same thing with you done with the icons. Maybe use a bigger format, but I think it should work the same. Anyway, open Morrowind is another thing I don't want to touch for the moment, but okay, I think it would work the same. We can even try just to see what happens out of curiosity. So remove mipmaps. I will go to that folder, see what happens, but I think it will more or less do the same. So we open this one. Okay. Start. And as you can see, it's doing the same exact thing. The icons are, as you can see, much bigger. They are 4 times bigger. 128 pixel is the size, and the Ordenador is just removing the mipmaps, but it's not changing the format of the textures. So it's working pretty well also for open Morrowind dedicated icons. Okay, let's see other folders. This is another important one, the meshes one. So for now we don't need anymore our Ordenador tool, because that was for textures and images and so on. And now we can check this meshes folder. So what could be wrong in the meshes? Well, we are assuming that meshes are more or less working properly. What are meshes? Meshes are this kind of files. They have usually this kind of file extension, NIF, and they are basically the objects, 3D objects you see in game. Most of them. Common problems that they could have is the textures that they use could have wrong paths, so the game could have problems finding them. So what we want to do is find an automatic way to try and fix some problems that these textures paths inside the mesh could have. I will show you an example. The tool to open this kind of files is called NIFSkope. It's another standard tool you can use with Bethesda games and other games, but important thing is for Morrowind you want to use the version, this version 1.1.3, because more recent version can be more or less set up to work with Morrowind files, but this is the one that probably natively works better with Morrowind. So download and install this one if you want to check what this file has. Basically we have a very simple example of mesh here using these textures. So what problem could one of these meshes file have with textures? The most common problem is the place where you tell where to find this image has some problems. And one of the problems is if the model is using some texture tool, some 3D tool to make the object, and the path to the texture is wrong. Like there is the wall path to the textures, which is different from what you use in game. Something like this, blah. Okay, you get the idea. You have the wall path to reach the thing in the computer of the author, but this doesn't work well in game because everybody could have this. So basically what happens in game is you don't find the textures and it doesn't work. This happens because in the computer of the author this path exists, and so the author will see the proper textures when he's testing the mod. And that's the reason why sometimes you find this kind of problems with meshes, because the author don't realize while playing and testing the mod that that textures is not properly defined. So basically we want a tool that automatically checks for this kind of problems in every mesh and possibly solves stripping this part like this or doing similar things to make the textures generally work when you install the mod in a different computer. So do we have something like that? Because imagine going to do something like that for each and every potentially thousands and thousands of this kind of files. It's clearly something really long to do, but luckily we have something like that. This tool is called let me check for it. NIF Texture Stripper or something like that. It's another tool you can find a link for instance in my site. Okay, NIF Texture Stripper. Here it is, by Ira Scarecrow. It was linked on Fligerties, but you know there's big problem with that site, so I have hosted it here because I think it's a super useful nifty tool to have, so you can download from my site. And this is a very small line command tool that you can use just opening a console, a terminal, but it is much easier to make a small batch file to use it. So what I did is make such a small file. This one, I call it nifxstrip_all.bat, which is the extension for a standard batch file in Windows, so something you can execute to run a console program. Basically this thing is just using that file, which is called nifxstrip.exe, with these parameters. These parameters are telling the program to look from the position where the program is to the folders in that same folder and those inside other folders from that level. And it's telling the program to change from slash in the path for textures in the NIF from slash to backslash, because this is the standard for used by Morrowind. This is not really needed because they both work, but it is to have something respecting standards, which is always good. As we are processing these files, we can also do this thing. This is another optimization. Now textures path means that we can strip some part of the from the textures path in the NIF if it is not needed. And why that happens? This happens because Morrowind is handling this kind of textures path in a way a little weird. Basically, there's a rule about how you can use this kind of paths. So the rule is, if a textures you are using, like for instance my textures .dds is inside the data files textures folder, Morrowind by default is looking there first. So you can, in this kind of paths, you can just strip this part because the game automatically is looking in that folder. So you can, like in our example, use some kind of simple path like this, without the textures and without anything else, just the name of the textures. Okay? You may ask yourself, but wait a minute, here we have a Targa extension for these textures, while we have everything transformed to DDS extension in your textures. How can this work? This can work because the game is smart and it can use any extension giving priority to DDS, but it is perfectly able to load this, okay, and think, okay, I'm looking for these Targa textures, I cannot find it, but there is a DDS textures with the same name, okay, I will use that one. This works with DDS, with Targa, and with bitmap. So you could refer to any of them here inside the NIF and it will work, but you want to have a DDS in your textures folder because that's the best format for the game to work as fast and using less memory as possible. So in short, we can use this kind of simple name for the textures inside the NIF or something like this, it doesn't matter, but important thing is we don't need to use textures before. So we can strip this part and we can strip it automatically with this option in the, using this small batch file. So this is doing a similar thing. It is changing here from, for instance, in the textures, from this to this. Okay, so wait, why should I want to do this? You just told me that the game is smart and the game doesn't, for the game it doesn't matter because it is able to use something like this and be able to find the proper textures by itself. Right? The game is smart, but what if you want to use NIFSkope for that, to see the how the mesh is looking? Or what if you want to use an external program? So my suggestion is also use this option, or we change the textures extension to DDS regardless, because this way when you will have the textures the real textures in this format, any program you opening the NIF will be able to find the textures. So this is much practical, because only the game and the construction set are able to automatically find the DDS or the bitmap, regardless of their real file name. If you open things from NIFSkope, it will not find the textures if it doesn't have the correct extension in the NIF file. So we want also this option, and for the same reason we want it also changing the tag extension to DDS extension. Okay, so this is a standard thing for console command, so you can output what the program is doing, the information about what the program is doing, to a simple text file that I called out2.txt. And this is how I call my NIFTX strip utility with these parameters, and I'm writing it on a file, so I don't have to write them on a console every time I use the tool, but I just double click on my batch file and things are done automatically. And this last line is just to open this text file with the program results automatically and show me if things have been done, if there are problems, and so on, if the program did change something or not. So I will just discard the changes, but I think this is not super hard to understand. Obviously the program can come with some documentation, you can read the details about these commands, but in short this is, in my opinion, what you would want to use, because these parameters are pretty good to be done for this program. But coming back to what this program does, we are already seeing that these parameters is removing, stripping this part, the textures part, if it is not needed. Okay, but you may think, okay, but this is not really needed, so that's the one reason why I'm using this. No, that's an important reason. This tool is able to automatically fix problems like the one we have seen, like if the mod author is still having inside your NIF file something like C program files, and I don't know, my Morrowind folder, test, and so on. Okay, so this program is smart and will just do something like that in a way that the texture will work. Maybe I should also explain another thing. We have seen that we can strip this part from textures that are in the standard folder like this. Okay, that works. But if the textures is in a different folder, organized in a different folder, like most mod author do correctly, like timer rebuild, I don't know, creatures, something like this, you cannot do that. This will not work in game if you remove this part. So you have to keep the whole path, else it will not work in game. It's a little silly because they will be probably in textures anyway, so you could also strip them, but the game works like this. There are reasons. So this tool must be smart enough to fix something like see blah and change it to this. So not something super really easy to do by hand or fast to do by hand, and that's a little smart logic inside. In short, this program does this thing very well, very fast for an incredible big number of files, and I really suggest you use it. So it can fix many of these kind of things. I cannot say 100%, but I would say 95% of these possible problems. So we will just make this small batch file, call it with a sound name like nifx3pol.bat. Okay, I'll close it because I don't need it. And what we want to do is go to the meshes folder. For instance, we could also copy things here, but let's use the mesh folder. We need to copy this batch file we talked about, and we need to copy obviously the main program, which is a very tiny one, but we need also the main thing, and we copy them both here in this folder temporarily, and we run it. Double click on this batch file, and this thing super fast is checking our NIF file and try and fix this kind of problem inside the NIF. And so let's see the log, the output of the program. So you can look for changes looking for this arrow symbol. This is a very small file, so no need to look for things. You can just see them. As you can see, changes. So this file, for instance, bf_soul.nif, what the program did is just change the path, so it is using DDS. We told the program to do that. Change it from bitmap to DDS. So in this way we can just open that NIF file from NIFSkope and see the proper textures in DDS format. And so on. Same things for the lava here, from Targa to DDS, and so on. So all these small changes automatically, and if there is a need for some fix, that should be also fixed. So is this thing necessary? No. Is this thing useful? Yes. Because if there is a problem with the texture path, it will fix it, and in any case it is doing a useful thing if you want to open things with NIFSkope to look at a special mesh, seeing the proper textures. In this case we cannot see it yet because we have not installed the mod, so we don't have the textures in the proper path yet, but we will check. Okay, so when you have this thing done, you take a look at the log, at the text file, telling you what things changed, and then when you have done this, you can delete these files because we already fixed things here. Again, no real need for this specific mod to do something like that. Probably the NIF files would have worked correctly anyway, but it is something standard that I do for each and every NIF and every mod that I install. And believe me, this small tool never caused me problem. Only solved problem. So something I really suggest. Next, sound. So this folder is containing sounds that are possibly used in game. There are different formats, but the standard format for sounds is a very old and used one, a standard one, the WAV format. Usually you don't have to do anything with this kind of files unless you want to change something about that. For instance, to change the volume about a sound, you can try to change the volume in the mod directly here, editing the mod, but oftentimes the fastest and easier thing is to just change the volume, editing directly the WAV file, if you know what it is. And to edit this kind of files, there are a lot of tools. Some are free, and I really suggest you use this little one for this if you need to edit a WAV file. It is called Wrye. You can easily find it, Wrye. You write on Google, you find it. Let's try it. And here it is, a free audio editor with lots of support. And this thing is extremely powerful, extremely fast, extremely small, extremely easy to use. So I really suggest, if you have to do small editings of WAV files, to use this thing. And the quality is very good, in my opinion, and it's pretty easy. So if we want, for instance, to change this kind of sound, depends what we want to do. For instance, if we are sure that, let's check it.
Down here, hurry up.
So this is a stereo files. We want to use this probably for an MPC. So the sound is coming from a single person we find in game. So is there a good reason for it to be a stereo file? Not really, maybe, because okay, you want to maybe simulate a little ambience, so you are using stereo for that. Maybe, but I don't think in game, especially in exterior, you can really manage to hear something like this. So maybe you may want to use a mono version file or change the volume. And you can do everything about this little thing. You can do easily from this small program. For instance, convert to mono, mix all channels, and here it is, a mono file.
Down here, hurry up.
This will occupy half of the place of the size, more or less, of the stereo one, and sound the same, because the sound will come from a single MPC. Maybe you want to hear it louder, we can change the volume. For instance, we want to add 3 decibel, so it sounds a little louder.
Down here, hurry up.
Or maybe you want to do the contrary or add an effect and so on. You can change a lot of things about the sound and save, and you're done. So this is another nice tool for that. But generally, you don't want to do this kind of changes before installing the mod, because you still don't really know how these sounds work in game, and maybe you want to skip this thing for now, but just to know what is the purpose of the sound folder and what you can find inside. Okay, so I think we are done here. The docs are in proper place. We have checked all the resources used by the mod. The resources that are in the archive. They seem to be okay now. They were already from the start pretty well done, with no real problems again, but we want to do a standard procedure to learn a standard procedure for all the mod we install. So I took this mod as example and applied it. And so we are ready to install the mod. Again, we can compress everything we change to a new archive. For instance, I select all, I make a new archive. It's important to use the same folder structures inside the archive. And then I can, for instance, go to the same folder. One thing I suggest, if you use a tool like the double commander or this one, the Norton commander, total commander, so on, is to set up a short key so you can easily change the second window to use the same folder of the other, because this is an operation, something that you want to use very often to compare things, to move things, and so on. So I have, for instance, set it up so when I press the function key 12, for instance, I do this thing very fast. So what we want to do is move the archive we already done out of this folder and maybe overwrite the original one with the fixes, with the changing we have done. So I can just move the file, can click here, move, or press the shortcut for it, and I want to move this file here. And it is asking me if I want to override the old one, and I say yes, because I have made my changes and I'm sure about it. So I move it from inside the archive and I place it in my download folders. It should be one of the most recent one. Here it is. Okay, so this is the upgraded mod package with the changes we did, ready to be installed. We can install it using a mod manager like Mesh, something, but I'm so used to work with files that I just simply copy the files in my folder, in my Morrowind folder. Like, for instance, I go there. So this is where my Morrowind is with all the folders. I go to the data files folder, which is where my mod and resources have to go, and I will just copy things there. Copy, yes. And it should be there. I can compare if things are there. And they are. So I have installed, copied the mod there. Maybe I want to remove the open Morrowind icons because I will not use them. This is not really important, but I could want to do that. So for instance, we have these folders, icon, sorry, not this one, the open Morrowind icons folder that I want to move because I don't use this. Okay. So the mod should be there. What I have checked my resources, installed the mod. What I need to do is actually let me check this thing so I can. Okay, I open Mesh, and now when Mesh is doing something like this, asking you to telling you it is updating the timestamp of some files every time you open Mesh. There's a simple fix for this. You go to log times, disable it, close Mesh, open Mesh again, and set it log times checked again. This way you will reset the not very well synchronized settings on Mesh. This happens every now and then, but not really something hard to fix. Anyway, we have added this new mod, which is containing this Silent Island ESP, and we look for it. Should be we can sort by alphabetical order and look for the Silent Island. Should be here. Here it is. So we can now start checking for possible problems. So for instance, we have maybe a different version of OAAB data from the time where the mod has been developed. This is usually not a big problem. Sometimes when one of the masters change, there could be problem upgrading the mod. It depends on what kind of master we are using. Luckily, this master is done by one of the most expert modders around, so usually it is not having this kind of problem, but you can easily verify this thing. So say you are using this master and this master is yellow, you are not sure it is the correct version, you can check the master here. You go right click and go to statistics. Basically, what could be a problem? The master is adding some references in some in-game cell, and these references change it because every time you save from the construction set a mod containing cell references, they are numbered every time in a different way when you add or move things. So this can cause incompatibilities with mods using this kind of references from a master mod. But a master containing only resources like this one, luckily, is not using any cell. As you can see here, there is no cell type here, so it means there are no references and there is no possibility for the mod having problem upgrading references. So you can, in short, you can, when you see no cells in the master, you can safely just go to your yellow mod, which is Silent Island, and do something like this. You click here somewhere in the mesh column here and save this way. So you will remove this kind of annoying color, and we are sure we don't have problem with this because this master contains no cells and for this reason cannot have references changed causing possible problem. And that is pretty good, but it is an obvious thing because this is a resources mod, so it is probably done this way. Okay, so we have this mod. We want to install. We have checked the resources. Now we want to check the mod, the ESP for possible problems. So, as usual, there are things we can do automatically. There are things we can only check in-game or opening the mod using the construction set or similar tools. So first we do the automatic things. For obvious reason, we want to avoid as much work by hand as possible. For two simple reasons. It is much longer to work by hand, and it is much prone to possible human errors. So we want to do the less work by hand as possible, and we want to rely on our trusted automatic tools as much as possible. Obviously, they must be tools we know how to use, and they must be tools that we are confident with, and so on. And we have such tools. So first thing we want to do is check for standard errors, incompatibilities. We want, in short, to clean the mod automatically from possible problems. Basically, we have a couple tools for this. One is called TESTool, and one is called TestFreeCommand. So I really suggest you use both because each of them can check, can fix some things that the other one cannot, and vice versa. So the order in which you use that is not really important. Maybe it is faster to use TESTool first because it is the faster one, so it can fix the more things at the start. But it's not really necessary to use this order. But let's do it as properly as possible. So what I will do is start TESTool. It will answer from the location of my Morrowind.ini. Found it there in this folder. Is this the right one? So the problem is asking me this because you can have more folders, more install than one install of Morrowind in your computer. So correctly, the TESTool is asking me if this is the right folder where I want to process my Morrowind, and I say yes. And then we can use this option to clean ESP/ESM files. So this tool in the past especially has some wrong reputation, bad reputation for people breaking mods, and especially dialogue mods and so on. But this is coming from people using it without understanding how to use it. Basically, people just clicking this big "just fix it" button without reading the readme, without reading instruction of what this thing is actually doing. I know, probably this is not a very smart name to use for this button, because this is like asking for people to use it, and if you are not sure that this button is to could do something not perfectly safe, it's better not to label this button this way. But this is the tool, and we don't want to hack it for just some minor things like this. And also maybe the author wanted to sort of punish the silly people not reading the readme while using tool. I'm joking, but maybe not so much. So in short, you don't want to use this button, because this button in short will try to fix all your mods in your loading list, and probably once in another mod will have problems for this, because you just are trying to do the lazy things and do a complex work for a lot of mods all in a time, and it can cause problems. So don't use it, just clean a few mods, or even better, just one mod at a time. So you want to go and use this option, execute. The program will tell you, okay, you want to do this thing, but you have not visited options. Do you want to go there? Oh yes, go, let's go there, so we can understand what the options are. So basically, when you want to clean a mod, my suggested options would be this one, check, don't change plugin files. What means is, if you check this one, this tool will change the original mods, fix it without changing anything in the name of the mod or using a copy of it. If you uncheck this, it will work on a copy and call the copy cleaned my mod blah blah blah. So I really don't think it's a good idea, because then you have all the sites of all the mods full of mods called clean, black, clean, something, clean. Okay. And then maybe they are not so clean, because also there are other problems that at the time mod authors were not aware of. But basically, don't change the name of your mod. It's not good, not a good thing to do. If you really are unsure and you don't want to change the original mod but want to use a different name to test your changes and so on, well, you can do it this way. Instead of using clean ESM directly, the first option, you go here. Clean but save results in a clean subfolder. So this way, the fixed mod will not go directly in your data files, but inside a special folder, and then you can rename from there. And not really practical, because it will be not visible from that subfolder. But you can do this thing if you are not sure about it. Or you can make a copy of the mod before cleaning it, like this. For instance, I want to clean this one. I make a copy. This is always good, easy to do from Mesh. I right click, File, Duplicate, and then I can work on the copy and do my changes here, and then when I'm sure, I copy back. But I could just work with this one. So I'm perfectly sure that what I do is something I can go back easily. So let's do it. I open this, clean, execute. Yes, I want to set my options, so I don't want to change the file name. I want to keep the file time. This is not really needed, because we have already mesh option for this option. That is locking the time of the file, but why not? It is here. It is a good thing. I will check it, and then the rest of the option. So this is not something you want to use. This is not something you want to use. Same things we want to check also for, because we use these things every time, so we don't want to ignore them. Same things for this. These are not really useful. There are other tools to manage this kind of conflicts. Same things here. Okay, so in short, check these two one, and maybe maybe we can talk about these couple options. So personally, I have them not checked most of the time, but there are some cases where, when in doubt, you may want to check these couple ones. The restricted dialog cleaning may be if you have very dialog intensive mod and you are not 100% sure that, for instance, the dialog mod is very well done by expert modders. Maybe you want to check this one. And this one could be useful if you have some mod which is using, for instance, special empty cell to store things, like some scripted mod by Jog or things like that, or a mod, for instance, if you're using a BTB mod, changing the cell flag to avoid being able to sleep in the wilderness, and you have the same cell that is renamed by a mod like Time Rebuilt, adding a new city there. You have conflict, you don't want to remove the cell, but there are things, this is a thing that is more rare. For instance, let's say you generate the the multi-patch with test-free command, and you want to try and clean that multi-patch. Okay, in this case, use these options, because multi-patch could be adding an empty cell just to have the cell get back a proper name to work in case of conflict and things like that. So you don't want to clean that empty cell, you want to keep it. So in this case, this option could be useful. You are unsure, you have doubts, you don't know, keep this to checked. So you will not have probably the most efficient and smaller mod available, but you will be safe and you will have no more doubts about it. So in short, if you aren't sure, check these two. If you are sure about what you're doing, just check these two. This is my suggestion on how to set up test plugin tool to clean some mods. So for now we will get this couple also checked, and now we can execute and select the mods we want to clean, which is Silent Island. We can work with the copy just to be sure. So a nice thing about the interface in Windows is that you can start typing things and they are filtered automatically, so we can choose the right one like this. And as you can see here, Silent Island is already clean. That's a good sign. So TESTool did not find anything to clean from this mod. This is a very good sign. It means the mod author is knows how to clean his mods already used this tool or something like that to clean the mod. And this is a very good sign about it. So first check done. Now we do the same thing using test-free command. Test-free command is another line command tool like the one we use to fix the textures path in NIF files, the NIF textures stripper. But luckily, test-free command is something that Mesh usually is able to use directly from the menus available. So if you have test-free command installed in your data folders, like this, here it is. If you have test free command here, Mesh is able to automatically see it and use it with a shortcut. Basically, I'm using by default a source version of Mesh, the old Mesh, which I tweaked a lot with my options and so on. So I have an options here to do this. So I can right click and go to File, Test Free Command, Clean with these parameters. But if you are using the Polemos version, like most people, you can do the same thing. So you go there. Silent, I will sort by alphabetic order. Okay, here it is. So you will have a different shortcut for this. Here it is. But basically it is the same thing. You right click on something to do something with that, and then you choose the option from the menu that is opening. So clean with task free command. So this is looking for my task free command, which is already there, and cleaning. So as you can see here, also task free command is telling us that the mod is already perfectly clean, and that is the second good sign about this being a quality mod, at least from a technical point of view, because the author has been able to upload a perfectly clean mod, and this is not something so common. So very good sign about it. So now that we have checked the mod is clean, we could maybe looking for conflicts with our special install. Maybe we could also check if we find some dialogue problems or things. Okay, this is what we did already is standard procedure that I suggest everybody to do using TESTool and test free command to clean the mod, any mod you are going to install. At least if the readme of the mod is not telling you not to do it for some reason, but personally I do it every time. Another thing you could do is using another nice tool which is provided with usually with I think mlocks source or test free command source. I don't remember where you can find it, probably in the mlocks repository, but it's called task free lint. So if you have it, the file is called task free lint.pl usually, and for it to work you must have a PAL installed. This is a little problem because not everybody has it, but if you have it, or if you are using the version that I have, you can download from my site. In theory it should work. I have made a compiled version, but if you want to use from Mesh, probably you need to have the PAL one and have PAL installed. But if you have it, what this small tool is doing is also checking for different things like other small problematic things that could be in the mod, especially dialogue problem. But as you can see here, we have no problem. The one thing that TESTfreelint is telling me is that the problem has not a version stated in the comment here, in the information about the mod, but that's not really a big problem. It is just something that can make adding information about the mod for mlocks working a little in an easier way, but honestly nobody is updating that part of mlocks information anymore. People updating mlocks database are mostly updating the loading order rules about the mods, so this thing is not super important. But anyway, if you have PAL installed, I really suggest you also run TESTfreelint with the mods you're going to install, because oftentimes, especially with dialogue heavy mods, is giving you very important hints about possible problems. As usual, take a look at the documentation about the TESTfreelint, because it explains a little more. But out of curiosity, something you may want to use if you are PAL installed and you are familiar with this kind of things. Anyway, this thing already we run. It's also going very good, no problem, even from TESTfreelint. So what we may want to do, something that I do before installing a mod is, well, for now the copy and the original are the same. We did not change anything, so the copy is something that we made to be sure, but we don't really need it, so I will just delete it. Okay, so personally what I do is change usually the information in the description field to add something that could be useful. For instance, if the mod is not telling me how to start the quest, I add this information here from the Readme. But as you can see, this mod is very well done also from this point of view, because we have this kind of information already, how to start the quest. So what I want to add is a link to the mod, because this way I can more easily find it, and also I can use something I done with my version of Mesh, which is a way to look for the links inside the info field, and when I create my mod list, automatically I'm adding also the link to the mods in my site. Let me show you. So this way I can spare a lot of work. So I have the mods I am playing in my site for people interested in my mod list, in my Morrowind world list, the mods that sorry, oof, I need to drinks. Talking too much. But basically, as you can see, there are links here, and these are done automatically this way. I copy the links from Nexus. Let's go back. Okay, here it is. Copy this. Yeah, let's see if we can do it. Okay, so next time I will generate that list, I will have automatically the mod linked this way. And also it is always useful information. If this is too long, you should have to try to shorten things, but usually not a big problem. Okay, I think the mod is ready to be tested against the loading order. So we have checked that the mod is very clean, very well done. What we want to check is, but wait, is this mod conflicting with some of the mod I have already installed? For instance, it could be use the same cells, change the same items as another mod, and so on. So how can I do this? Well, there are some kind of conflicts that are nearly impossible to verify automatically. For instance, okay, if the mod is using the same cell of another mod, it doesn't mean that it is conflicting, because my first mod could be placing a house to the north of the same cell, and the second mod could be placing another house to the bottom, to the south part of the same cell. So they are using the same cell, but they are not conflicting because they are changing different things. But you can verify something like that only opening the mod in the construction set or checking in game. But there are a lot of other things that we can check automatically, and for this there are a couple tools. So one of them is very old, made specifically for Morrowind, and the second one is a more recent tool that is used and was born for different and more recent games like Skyrim and so on, and only recently does a compatible version with Morrowind. Honestly, I'm most used with the old one, and I've tested the new one, but my impression is there are still a lot of things that are not correctly ready for Morrowind file format yet. There is a lot of information possible in mods that is not correctly recognized by TestFreeView. This is how it is called, the tool. So my suggestion is use the old one, which is made for Morrowind, and in my opinion it still works better. But if you are so used to the TestFreeView from using it with other games that you find that so convenient, you don't want to learn how to use the Elder Scrolls Conflict Detector, which is the old one, well, use TestFreeView. It can still find most of the conflict, but probably it will spit some error message here and there that are not real errors, but just TestFreeView not being able to recognize some record format that are perfectly legit in a Morrowind file. So this is my opinion. I suggest you use the old one, which is called Test Plugin Conflict Detector. You cannot find it anymore in this link because it's a very old tool, one of the first developed for Morrowind, but still it is a very good one. And you can find links and usual in my site, or you can go and look for the or some link. It is hosted on Fligerty sites, but Morrowind modding history, probably, as you may know, the search in Morrowind modding history usually is not working, or working not so well. Let's try it. So I will look for test BCD This is not working. Let's try this. Not working. So the only thing that work here is let's try another thing. Let's try Soto, the auto. Nah. Okay, so download. We can go by categories, tools, utilities, and look here. It's a long thing. Honestly, my suggestion is I have made a special database, online database that you can use to search this kind of things. I have scraped this information from the Morrowind modding history, so the mods are still here, but you can find a search, a working search, and more or less the same information from here. You go to the mod list link from my site, and that's this link, Morrowind modding history index, and here you can find a specific web application which is relying on a SQLite database containing all this information, and it's a pretty powerful search tool, but also a simple one if you just want to use it simply. So we can just write something here like, and if it is there, it should find it immediately, and here it is. So as you can see, there are a couple versions. This is the author. The last one should be this, the 0.31 version. So you click here and you go directly to the download in the mod history site. Hopefully this will work. So download, install it, and use it. And when you use it, you start it. Where it is? Here it is. So I will start it, and in short try to tell you how to use it, because it's not hard, but maybe not so intuitive the first time you try it, and it's not hard. Basically, you need to automatically load your loading list, and then make a comparison between the new mod you want to install and the rest of your loaded mods. So how you can do this? Well, you go to File and choose Active Plugins. This way you will automatically load all the ESP mods in your loading order. Only the ESP, because the masters will be taken into account automatically if they are used by any of these ESP. So it makes sense. And also, I think the tool automatically checks for masters in any case, even those, and gives you information about masters, possible master conflicts also with mods you have not loaded, but not sure about it. Anyway, this is usually enough. So File, choose Active Plugins, then you go here, check type, single versus, so a new folder appears here, master plugin, and here you choose the new mod you want to check for conflict, to install and check for conflicts. So add, and we look for our mod, which is Silent Hill. So I start writing as usual, and Windows is smart and filtering things, so we can see the list of mods, and we choose the right one, open, and so here it is. So what the tool is going to do is compare this one with all the list of loading mods and tell me if it is able to detect some possible conflicts. You could also compare all the mods with all of the other mods, but that would take much more time. So this is probably the right way to do this kind of check if you are actually adding one single mods, like usually you should do, because it is much easier to manage things properly doing one mod at a time. So we will start the check, for instance, pressing this red arrow here. And it will take some time because I have a big loading list. And here it is. So, good news, conflicts are very few, and I have a super big loading list, as you may know. But let's see. So, the only conflicts found by test plugin conflict detector so far are path grid conflicts. That means that there are things in the same cell used by different mods. So our mod is Silent Island, and if loaded with this recent timestamp, because the mod is very recent, it will conflict with, for instance, changes to the path grid done by this mod, by this mod, by this one, and this, which is loaded probably last, because it is Necessities of Morrowind, which is a mod doing a lot of changes to the path grid, because it is adding a lot of shops and taverns and so on. So this kind of conflict, usually it is better if you can to keep the important path grid changes. The mod which is changing more, adding more houses, more shops, more changes to the exterior, is the one that probably you want to keep the path grid changes for, because obviously it is the one with more important changes. And another reason could be the one you want to load last for a lot of reason. In this case, I like to keep the path grids, especially from the Necessities of Morrowind mod. So basically, the only way to decide what to do about these conflicts is to check things in the construction set, because only from that construction set you can see the path grids. Well, you can see them also in game, but it doesn't help a lot about fixing that. So what this tool is telling me is, okay, you may have this kind of conflict, a conflict between these mods you are using and the new mod. So go and check these conflicts. How can I do this? I click here, and the mod should be telling me where the problem is. Let's see, somewhere. It's more difficult than... Oh, okay, here it is. Sorry, I'm silly. Here is the information we need. So I have been how can I say it? Sorry for my English. Baffled, is it right, by this big number here, but it is just some kind of size that I think the conflict detector is adding. Yeah, but in short, the cell number, the cell coordinates we need to be able to check the proper cell are here. So it is the cell 722, and only this cell which is having problem, the cell where diagram file is. So we may want to just remove probably the changes to the path grid from this mod, if we are using all this mod like I am using. Alternatively, we want to establish a mlox loading order rule, so we can load these conflicting mods after probably the Silent Island one, so we can keep the changes to the path grid that we are using, especially the ones by necessities, which is the most delicate one. So what I will do is open the mod in the construction set, check that cell, see what path grid changes are, and try to understand if I can safely remove those changes, because it is not something certain that they are really needed. We must open the mod. There's no different way to decide the proper thing without having this view from the inside. But this tool has been able to pinpoint us where the possible conflict could be, the exact cell. So we can go there. So we open the construction set. Oh, another important thing. Very recently it has been released on the Nexus a tweak of the construction set, so a lot of menus are enlarged to be much more easy to use with a bigger screen resolution compared to the one we were using. So we will use this version and give it a try. So I want to open the mod silent it is one of the last one probably. Lots of mods. The last one? Yeah, one of the last one. Okay. Set as active. In theory, it should load automatically. The masters, let's see. There are 4 of them. Let's see. If it is crashing. No, okay. Let me check this thing. I think the voice is working correctly. Not sure about it. I hope so. Anyway, we have the information about the cell 722. We can easily find it this way. Edit. No, sorry. World. That must be. Oh, go to cell. World. Go to cell. Okay. 722. Is it right? Yeah. So I can use world, go to cell, and directly open the proper one. And once I am here, I can click the B key so I can see the borders. We can increase the light just to see things more clearly. And finally, we want to see the path grid Probably. Well, let's first check what the mod is changing in Dragonfell. Mod is adding these NPCs on this boat. Not a good thing. Because this boat is in a place which is going to conflict with a lot of other mods. And the first one I'm thinking about is the Emil mod here. So I already know by looking at this cell that that's not only a path grid problem, but also there will be a conflict with other mods. So in my opinion, best thing to do with this mod would be move the whole bot in a different cell. But it is not a super easy task, because there are my transport mod which are adding routes to Dragonfell, so it must be a proper place. So the question is, will the mod work if we move this bot a little more far away from Dragonfell, like for instance some place here, maybe moving a couple of rocks here, but in a place that is not easily conflicting with other transport mod? Or there's a reason why this bot must be seen from Dragonfell? This is the question. Or even, could we move things out of Dragonfell to some other place with less conflicts? This could also solve the problem with the path grid. This question is not easy to answer. We need to take a look at, for instance, how these NPCs are used. They are quest givers, they need for the player to be here. So it's something longer to check, but you get the idea. We found already where some possible conflicts can be in this cell with this kind of addition. I already know, for instance, that the Cynic mod one heading a mill here will have conflict with this bot, for instance. I know that my transport mods will probably have conflict here, and so on. So I think I will stop here for now, but you got the idea. We already checked a lot of things before installing the mod, and we already know what to check for conflict of this ESP. So next time I will try and find a way to make it compatible with my setup. And I want to do it because I have a feeling this mod will be great, because I know the author already, and I have seen a squeaky clean mod so far, but there are conflicts about the location where this bot is, and about the path grid. So if I want to use the mod with my other already installed mod, I must find a way to move this thing and to adapt the mod. So this is construction set work, essentially. There's no other way to do it automatically. But this will be a longer thing, so I must stop here, and thanks for watching for now, and I hope to have show you something useful when you want to install mod and optimize textures and meshes and so on. So thanks for watching, and for now, see you next time. Bye bye.